Alright guys, I got another Wrangler project update for you. This is the winter update 2024. As you can see, Jeep's got salt on it. I've been driving it yesterday and today. It snowed a little bit this morning, so I drove it to work this morning in the snow, which was pretty fun. Very slippery, but yeah, it's got dirt on it, it's got snow on it. I didn't build it to sit in a garage and be pretty. I built it to actually be able to drive it. So I guess I'll start in the engine bay. I had been having issues with it cold starting, and it would want to die if you didn't have your foot on the throttle, and the high idle wasn't working, and I'd hold it at like 1200 RPM for about 30 seconds until it started to pick up RPMs by itself, and then it wouldn't want to immediately die out. But then you'd go to drive it down the road and it would be sputtering like it had a misfire, for like a solid minute after that. Or unless you like shifted it into first and then like pretty much went wide open throttle, it would be sputtering. So this morning I took a minute and actually properly adjusted the electric choke. Which, if you don't know how to do that, basically you crack your throttle a little bit. After loosening these 3 screws for the electric choke, you crack your throttle to relieve the fast idle cam. And then you rotate the choke housing clockwise until it opens. And then, or until it starts to open. Or until it opens, it really doesn't matter. And then you basically turn it back counterclockwise until the choke fully closes. And then from there, you can adjust it a little bit better. I pretty much did adjusted it till it opened and then closed, and then maybe like a couple degrees past that. How I had it before was way further counterclockwise than it is now, so the misfire was probably because the choke was staying on for way too long, which, that's my fault. That is 100% my fault. I'll admit that. I didn't have that adjusted before, but now I do. I don't really remember if I went over it in the last video, but I got my heater box in, heater lines hooked up. You can see one fitting goes into the top of the water pump, the other fitting goes onto the intake. And so now the heater core is all hooked up and everything. It's all great. The heat works pretty good, which I'll get into that when I get into the inside. Big thing for Christmas, obviously, you can see it now. My brother bought me a Batwing air cleaner. It's like a reproduction off the style that they used on like the late 50s Cadillacs. It's actually pretty cool. I was actually looking at this style air cleaner when I was originally putting the V8 in the Jeep. So I'm glad to have gotten that. It's definitely a lot better than my other air cleaner that I had on it before that was real small, that I had just gotten so that it would clear the throttle linkage, and it ended up being that the hole for the carburetor was like an eighth of an inch too big. So you'd have to get it perfectly centered to get it onto the carburetor without having a gap underneath it. So that's a big improvement. I'm very happy to have gotten that. The only downside is my PCV no longer has a port to hook up on this air cleaner, which I could always drill that later, but I think for now I'm just going to leave it open. It's really not that big of a deal. One thing on the engine bay that I am thoroughly disappointed by is, you know, the Jeep's been sitting outside probably for the past 2 months, give or take, so that my brother can work on his Jeep more easily without mine being in the way all the time. And one big frustration that I have is, I mean, you can't really see it, but the block is starting to rust, especially around the Fleet Freeze plug. And more annoyingly is my Summit ceramic ram horn manifolds are surface rusting, which the whole reason I got ceramic ram horn manifolds instead of cast iron ones was because the ceramic ones aren't supposed to surface rust, and lo and behold, the Summit brand ones at least are surface rusting. That is really frustrating. You know, these were probably in the neighborhood of $200 for the pair, so, you know, not cheap but also not expensive. Obviously, being a Summit brand, I pretty much expected this, but I'm a little upset still. And obviously you can see my master cylinders oxidizing. My thermostat housing is oxidizing. Luckily my radiator's absolutely fine. My valve covers are fine. My alternator's fine. My water pump pulley is fine. It's literally just the manifolds, brake booster, and thermostat housing that are rusting. So that's a little bit frustrating. But moving on to the inside, for Christmas I got myself, it hasn't come yet, but Summit started making, I think they started making because I've never seen it before, but they basically make their own version of a second gen Trans Am steering wheel, but it's leather wrapped. It's the same design as the Trans Am steering wheel. Pretty much the only real difference is the leather wrap around the outside, and it has a Summit Racing S for the horn button, which, you know, if it's the same design, hopefully I can change that out to an actual Firebird. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see it because I can't turn my flash on, but I'll try and turn my inside light on. Yeah, so you can see I got my heater controls in, and I relocated the panel for my starter switch. You can see my fuel pump switch is just dangling there. I have no real aim to actually hang that anywhere because, you know, it's just the fuel pump switch. I could always tuck it up, and that's like a little anti-theft device. But yeah, there's that. I got new weather stripping on my full doors, and I got them adjusted a little bit so that they at least shut right. They definitely don't line up around the top here. This door is a little too far this way, so there's a little bit of a gap, but you can also see that door is contacting, well, it's pretty much about to contact the windshield frame, because this windshield frame is beat to crap on this side for some reason. I have no idea how that happened. That's always been like that. You can see where I tried beating it back out, but evidently these things are made out of titanium or something, because this lip was not wanting to cooperate back when I did the body work on the Jeep. But yeah, I pretty much got the doors adjusted as well as I can get them for now. And then moving around to the back, something pretty obvious by now. My other Christmas present to myself was a matching rear seat. You know, for the longest time I had the factory gray fold and tumble seat in the back. Well, now I've got a Rugged Ridge fold and tumble seat. Fit is decent, I would say. It's definitely a little far to the passenger side. You can see though, I have it mounted a lot farther back than the factory seat, because I actually just found out while I was doing research. You can see those are the 2 bolt holes for the factory seat brackets, and then pretty much right behind them are 2 more bolt holes on either side for mounting the seat farther back. So I decided I'm going to mount the seat further back. That way back seat people have more leg room. You know, there's also further back seatbelt bolts, so I got those installed. The only downside to this seat is it has no way of actually latching down at the moment. It does not use the factory style latch, which is pretty much a combination latch of it latches the seat back up and it also latches the seat bottom down. But this seat has the latch for folding the seat on this side, and then the latch for holding the seat down in the middle. And it comes with a little plate that you would bolt here with a ring on it that catches this tooth on the latch. However, no matter which way I flip the seat brackets, or where I put that bolt, because it has 3 bolt holes, no matter where I put anything, it didn't line up with the seat at all, which was very, very frustrating. I even tried putting seat brackets back where they were originally, and it still didn't line up. So for now, it's just whoever's back here just has to rely on the seat belt to hold them in, because this thing ain't holding itself in. But you know, that's how it's gonna have to be for now. So Rugged Ridge gets a solid 3 out of 5 stars on that one. For the price, I would have definitely expected better. The seat was $380, so not cheap at all. You know, I had to pay the Jeep tax. Not cheap. The brackets for the seats, the little pins that go through the eyelets on the seat, were coated in a very thick powder coating that I had to sand off to even get the seat onto the seat brackets, because it's such a tight fit that it's probably designed to be a tight fit before they paint it, and then they add, you know, however many fractions of a millimeter of paint, and then you can't even get the seat onto the bracket. So I had to sand those down, and it was still a pretty tight fit. The other issue I've been having is this either the rear hatch leaks or the rear window leaks. So where the seat is right now is actually like, this thing would be soaked if it rained. I don't know if it's the window seal on the seat, on the window that's leaking, or if it's the hatch seal that's leaking, or it's hard to tell. But either way, it is leaking a lot. Pretty much this whole back area would be covered in water every time it rains, no matter how hard it rains. It could rain lightly and it'll still be covered in water. But yeah, I got the another quick note on the heater. I was like, oh, I'm gonna put the heater box back in so I have heat for the winter. I had forgotten, however, that when I gutted the tub to do the body work, I took the ducting out of the top for the heater ducts. So pretty much the heater box is just blowing straight up through the hole into the cowl, into the back of the dash, and some of that air comes out of the defrost duct on the dashboard, but it's nowhere near what it should be. And same thing for the floor duct for the footwell heaters. That is also gone. No idea where that went. I probably threw it out at some point, but live and learn. You can get those pretty cheap on eBay, luckily. But yeah, that is pretty much it for this video. Like I said, I'm just waiting on that steering wheel to come in. Sorry for the background noise. You. But yeah, just waiting for that steering wheel to come in. You know, I'm occasionally driving this thing in the winter. I obviously don't love getting it covered in salt, but what can you do? Beats letting it sit for the entire winter. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I will update you guys if anything else major goes on with the Jeep, but otherwise I will see you in the next one.